So I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election. So, you know, one of the challenges we're having is like, well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. You know, not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly. So every day between now and the election, we'll be awarding $1 million, starting tonight. All right. So tonight's person is John Dreyer. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
So, by the way, John had no idea. So, anyway, you're welcome. Yeah. So the only thing we ask for the $1 million is that you be a spokesperson for the petition, and that's it. Really, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So wait, do you want to say anything?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thanks, Elon. This is great. I'm really ecstatic. I want to congratulate you on your rocket catch last week. Big curveball. But yeah, I've been following you for 10 years. Got your biography 10 years ago, and been watching ever since, and big fan. So
Thank you. All right. Well, cool. So. Yeah, so I think this is kind of fun, you know, it seems like a good use of money, basically. We really need to go all out to protect the Constitution. The Constitution is there for a reason. There was great wisdom in that document. And if anything, you know, it is what will save us from tyranny, and yeah. So. Well, let's see. So. I don't actually have any, like, as you can see, there's no teleprompter or anything. I'm just like, what should I say next? I don't know. But you know, it's worth reiterating why I'm supporting Donald Trump for president. And you know, there's. I think important things that need to happen. I mean, I think we essentially want the sensible, basic things. We want safe cities. We want secure borders. We want, obviously, support for the Constitution. We want, I think, less government sort of overreach. And you know, I think we want to restore freedom to the people, you know, so that your individual liberties are prized, and you get to do what you want to do, and you're not sort of overregulated to death, which is kind of what's happening. it's sort of shocking, but I think there's something like 428 federal agencies. That's almost 2 agencies per year since the founding of the country, and more being created. And so I call this like sort of strangulation by overregulation. And this is crazy. So I think with the Trump presidency, we have a real opportunity to reduce the size of government, to have a sensible regulation, and really free the American people to do what they want to do. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, like, these are sort of right-wing values. They seem like sensible values. I mean, like, in fact, I find it strange that these are even question marks, frankly. So it's just obvious things that should happen. Well, you know what? Let's go straight into Q&A, because I feel like a lot of things you've kind of heard before, or people out there have heard before. And if I keep repeating myself, it's going to be kind of boring. So, better to have questions, and then the questions can lead to interesting discussions. One note I should make with respect to questions or comments, the kind of questions or comments you want to have are things that you think the public would be interested in hearing. So it's sort of, what would people out there be interested in hearing me answer or hearing you say, and that's the way to kind of think about the framing of the questions. Please go ahead.
Hey, Elon, BJ Wurzen, absolute honor to meet you tonight. First, I just want to say thank you for your leadership. We all really appreciate what you're doing. It's absolutely amazing that you're even out here doing this.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, the reason that I'm doing this is because I really think we're at a fork in the road of destiny, and this election is an absolutely crucial one. I have not been politically active before, and I'm politically active now because every instinct that I have tells me that this is a fork in the road of destiny.
So you obviously are interested in Pennsylvania, and there's even a rumor that you might want to invest in Pennsylvania.
That's true. Actually, I spoke with yeah.
Well, my first question is, would you want to go halvesies with me on the Pittsburgh Pirates? We could really piss off Mark Cuban. No, the real question,
yeah.
You're a numbers guy, you're looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
What are you seeing here in Pennsylvania and others that's giving you encouragement, and what are you concerned about?
Well, I'm very much encouraged by the enthusiasm that I see. Obviously, in the crowd tonight is incredible energy and enthusiasm. It's like, it's heartening. It's really heartening. It encourages me, because sometimes I wonder, is there enthusiasm? Is there energy to make things happen? Because sometimes, like our biggest issue is often apathy. Is that if the people that could vote just actually voted, then Trump would win for sure. So a lot of it is I think convincing people who sometimes feel like the vote doesn't matter, or it's all rigged, or whatever, that actually the vote does matter. And if there's any election in their lifetime that they're going to vote, they should vote in this one. This one, it really is a big deal. So, I really want to encourage people out there to this is a one-time ask. Just go out there and talk to your friends and family and acquaintances and people you meet in the street, and convince them to vote. Obviously, you got to get registered, make sure they're registered, and make sure they vote. This is a big one. This is a really big one, and I've never said that before. So this one, you got to go all out, all out. Yeah.
Elon, I'm Senator Greg Rothman. Welcome to Central Pennsylvania. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
So you've been in Pennsylvania at least the last week or so. Anything surprises you about this state, our Commonwealth? What have you noticed? What have you seen that's been a surprise to you?
Well, I did live here for 3 years, so I'm not like a total stranger. I went to college in Pennsylvania, so I'm not like some guy who just like, what is the state? What's it like? I lived here for 3 years, so no, it's a great state. I really enjoyed my time here, and it's and I think actually Pennsylvania is. It's the linchpin in this election, and how Pennsylvania goes, I think, is how the election goes, and yeah.
Elon, my name's Chandi. I'm one of the pastors here. Thank you for hosting your town hall here at Life Center in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
My question for you is, would you hold an official position in the Trump administration? If so, what would it be? Would you create a new role for you to help save our nation?
Well, yes. So I've had many conversations with President Trump, who is very much aligned in thinking that we need significant government reform. We need to get the government out of people's lives, really. And have America be the land of liberty, which is that is what has made America great, is the land of liberty and opportunity. So you maximize people's personal freedom, and we make sure that getting ahead is a function of hard work and talent, and an honest day's work. That's really what should get people ahead, and that's the only thing, So.
Hello, Elon. Jarrell with Genuine Assets. Welcome to Pennsylvania again. My question for you, Elon, is the biggest obstacle that you've had in life and how you turn that obstacle into an opportunity.
Okay, I'll get it.
Well, I guess I've had a lot of obstacles. I certainly didn't expect to, get the things done that I have gotten done. Quite frankly, I expected failure. So it was really just that I wanted to do something that was as useful as possible. I wanted to be as useful as possible, and that was it really. So I didn't even really actually originally intend to even start a company. I tried to get a job at Netscape after graduating from Penn, and Mark Andreessen's a friend of mine, but they didn't respond to my resume that I mailed in. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try writing software I've been writing software since I was a kid, so I'll write some internet software and see if I can do some useful applications on the internet. And I ended up sort of writing the first maps and directions and yellow pages and white pages on the internet back in '95. And that it was just really because nobody would give me a job on the internet. So that was it. If they'd given me a job, I guess I would have just worked at Netscape or something. But my best advice really is just like, try to do an honest day's work and try to be as useful as possible to your fellow human beings. Try to give more than you take, and I just have a lot of respect for people who do an honest day's work. That's what really matters. So.
How's it going, Elon? Good to see you. My name's Josh. I'm worried about kids in a big way. I grew up in Wyoming County, up north, small town area, real conservative. Got a education at Penn State, economics. And it really turned me away from my father and our small business that we had. I was basically raised to take it over. And I did once I graduated, but it kind of imploded afterwards, about a year. And I moved to California, and I didn't know what really happened. We got in a big argument, and I had to go. It was freeze, so flight happened next. Explored homosexuality, considered transitioning to a female, and
Wow, this is quite the journey.
yeah, and I think that there's a big problem with education that is having people. I guess my question is, what are other things we can do besides the impact that we can have on the Department of Education to help confused children that are trying to know who they are and how they can fit into their community and be productive?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think there's well, what I think. I mean, what I see is that there's like a tremendous amount of propaganda being pushed on kids in schools, and it's I think it's just messing with kids' heads. I mean, anyone that goes through puberty, it's going to be an identity crisis. If going through puberty, it's normal kind of to have an identity crisis, really. And I think we should tell kids if you're confused, that's okay. It's like it's coming of age. We shouldn't steer them in a particular direction or convince them of something that they're not. It's okay to go through an identity crisis. Everyone does. But I think what I see in schools is that they tend to send kids down paths that they wouldn't actually go down because they're being pushed down that way by the teachers, and by the propaganda that's pushed in the schools. So. I think we need to tell kids it's okay to live with uncertainty, that it's normal to have uncertainty, and it'll settle down over time, and and don't make any permanent decisions. Decisions that can't be reversed. So I think we definitely should not have any sort of sterilization of kids, below 18. That's no good. There's an age of consent for a reason. And we don't let kids get tattoos until they're 18, and we don't, alcohol is technically illegal until 21, although that's often, observed in the breach. But we just want people to not make decisions when they're young that make them unhappy as an adult. That's really what it comes down to. And I think you want to say we want to optimize for people's long-term happiness. But that means making sure, like I said, that there are no irreversible changes during a kid when a kid has an identity crisis, which every kid has, and that's totally cool. And so my opinion is we should just tell kids when they're going through puberty and an identity crisis, that's totally normal, and don't get too stressed about it. And things will settle out how they settle out, and that's the right thing to do.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Elon Musk. My name is Lenka White. I'm a legal immigrant from the Czech Republic. We are all very grateful for X. I think it's the only platform where we can find the truth, and not only here in the United States, but in places like Europe. My question is, what is your vision on the future of the media under Harris versus under Trump, how it would look like, and can the legacy media still earn the trust back, and what would happen to X, of course? Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, No, it's a great question because I think what we'll see is a lot of censorship under the Kamala regime. Kamala is really she's just a puppet, frankly. I mean, if the teleprompter breaks, doesn't know what to say. So I just call it the machine, the kind of big government machine, essentially. And you sort of have a face on the big government machine, and when the Biden puppet was not working out, they sort of got a new puppet. But it's still the same machine, obviously, and it's extremely undemocratic what was done. It's bizarre and hypocritical to claim that Trump is somehow a danger to democracy when what happened with Biden being removed as the candidate was incredibly undemocratic. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense. But there's clearly a strong push for censorship under the guise of fighting disinformation. But really, disinformation is a propaganda word. It's not well, who's going to decide what's disinformation? The government? That's crazy, So yeah. So I think we'll see. This is this is why we have this petition in support of freedom of speech and right to bear arms. Is that it's under siege. It's being attacked. But really, we should have the free marketplace of ideas. People can propose an idea. They can, the people can discuss an idea, and they can make a statement. People can rebut that. You can have, this sort of the people can decide. And I think it's far better for information to sort of bubble up from the voice of the people than to be decided by a handful of editors-in-chiefs of newspapers. That's, yeah. I mean, the biggest point of manipulation that occurs in the media is not when the media says something that's false or misleading, but because they do that, but their choice of narrative. What are they going to talk about? Is that's by choosing to focus on one thing and not focus on another thing, that they're sort of steering what information the public receives. Whereas I think the right thing is that the narratives that are important should be the narratives that the people as a whole think are important, not what a few media oligarchs think is important. So, yeah. But they sure like controlling information. So I think if the Kamala machine wins, then we'll see. I think severe censorship is what's going to happen, and that's why I think this is the last election. Yeah.
Thanks to you, Kamala is not going to win. I'm Chet. My name is Chet Byler. I'm from right here in central Pennsylvania, and I don't think that was an overstatement. Thanks to you, Kamala will not win. I have two questions regarding the election itself and what you believe can be done to create not only a victory, but a strong victory.
Yes.
I'm now convinced that, again, thanks to you, we're going to sweep the 7 states that we must win. But I also hope we could pick up New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Virginia. So I wonder what your thoughts are as to how decisive the victory could be. And then number 2, as was referenced earlier, we and all of America is very enthused about you working with Donald Trump to make our government appropriately smaller and more effective. Yes. So, because that message is so compelling, I wonder if your super PAC could be a little more clear
Sure.
about that point as it relates to you affecting that upgrade to this great country.
Certainly, I'm happy to clarify that. I think I'm not, a lot of the things I say, I feel like I'm just stating the obvious, but sometimes the obvious isn't what happens, or is that if America is not strong, if the West is not strong, then nothing else matters. The companies that I run, they don't matter. Basically, if America is the central pole holding up the tent that is Western civilization, and if that pole fails, nothing else matters. So nothing else matters. So I've tried to encourage a lot of people in business and technology to say hey, you just got to think long term. You don't even need to be altruistic. You just got to think long term and say, if America fails, what good is your business? It doesn't matter. So America must be strong, and the central pole that holds up the tent of Western civilization must be firm as an oak. So.
Hi, Elon. My name is Joselle, and thank you for saving free speech. My question is, what would you expect to see when you head the Government Efficiency Department? What are your strategies and priorities to curb government spending?
Well, I've had some exposure to government spending because SpaceX does have a lot of government contracts. There's a lot of work for NASA and for DoD, Intel, and whatnot. And so I've actually seen just the level of waste that happens. And if you talk to people in the government, they actually agree. Yes, this is very wasteful and inefficient. And I'm like, well, why don't we do something about it? But really, in order to do something about it, it has to be a mandate from the top. And if the president is, if we have a great president like Donald Trump, who is willing to make major changes, and it's difficult because the system will fight you. The system is not going to be like, oh yeah, no, totally, we're totally happy being smaller. that will not be, the sort of antibody reaction of the system will be quite severe. I don't think it's going to be, they're not going to, like it, basically. But you have to have that mandate from the president. And we need a real president, not a puppet, The thing that scares the system, that scares the machine, is that Donald Trump is not a puppet. He's a real person, and he's not beholden to anyone. And that's why you see sort of, that they're trying to kill him, And, I mentioned as a joke, I meant it as a joke, that no one's even bothering to try to kill Kamala. Because there's no point. There's no point, is what just get another puppet, So I'm not suggesting someone should try to kill her, it's pointless. But I'm just saying, I'm just making an observation, nobody's bothered. Why is that? Because it doesn't matter. Yeah, assassinating a puppet is pointless. So, yeah.
Hi, Elon. I'm Chadwick from Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I think more people are voting for Trump than ever before. It's historically been Democratic. I wear my Trump hat and walking around, people come up to me all the time, all races, all sexes, and they're like, cheers, let's go.
Let's
I was
go.
just like, let's go.
Yeah,
MAGA.
exactly.
All right, so.
MAGA, loud and proud, let's go.
Yeah.
I encourage people to put Trump Vance signs on their lawn and wear MAGA merch. Because a lot of it is like people, a lot of people they actually would like to support Donald Trump, but they aren't sure if anyone around them does too, and a lot of people. So you got to sort of, if you sort of kind of plant the flag, then people are like, yeah, I see other people are doing it, then maybe I will too. So,
100%.
yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing.
100%. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for standing up for Trump and putting your voice out there, because it's really important. Seeing your face, the richest person in the world, that's you. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I built some companies that do a lot of useful things, and as a result, the stock's worth a lot. So that's kind of what happens. It's like, but in terms of personal expenditures, I do not live particularly, I don't have like a yachts or islands or anything like that. I just work, So.
Good evening, Elon. My name is Jared. It's a pleasure and honor to meet you here in Pennsylvania.
And it's an honor and pleasure to meet all you guys.
Yeah.
You guys rock. I mean, this is firing. I mean, seeing the level of enthusiasm is just. I mean, this is firing me up big time. This is awesome. Yeah.
Me too. USA.
USA, absolutely.
I have a two-part question. Part A, okay. I admire your authenticity as well as Donald Trump and truly wanting to make America great again, giving up whatever you need to just do the right thing, even if it's unpopular.
Yeah.
With all the government spending that you keep talking about on X, do you believe that in combination with the Department of Government Efficiency, with Donald Trump's policies, do you think we can reduce the U.S. national debt that's currently at under $36 trillion? And part B, is that after you do it?
We have to. Yeah. Like, if we don't do something about the debt, it's going to be, like, this is like, for some reason, just the legacy of mainstream media just ignores the fact that America is going bankrupt like crazy. It's like at a rate that is unprecedented. And the reality is that all government spending is taxation. So people think, well, there's government spending and taxation are somehow separate, but they're not. All government spending is taxation because the deficit is what results in inflation, and inflation is a de facto tax because it causes all prices to rise and makes people trying to just live their lives have a lot of difficulty. But inflation throughout history has been used as a pernicious tax because it's 1 degree removed, so people don't feel it directly. They sort of, and then the politicians will try to blame it on something else, but it's all about government spending. Government spending is what drives inflation. So the key is we've got to reduce the government spending, and if we don't, we're going to go bankrupt as a country. End of story. Just like a person. If a person spends beyond their means, they go bankrupt. And we're spending beyond our means, and we're spending on like silly stuff that doesn't actually benefit the public.
Correct.
Yeah.
And part two to that, I believe you're going to do that with Donald Trump. I'm just telling you that it's not if, it's when, because I am confident you and Donald Trump are going to truly make America great again.
Well, thank you, but I do want to caution against complacency is the only thing.
Correct.
So it's like we just need to be super hardcore about getting every possible vote.
Confidence, not complacency.
Yes, exactly. We want to be confident, but not complacent.
Correct.
And so that's why it's like we've got to just be total evangelists about the voting.
Yep.
And really every vote counts, and just make sure everyone is registered. The deadline for registration in Pennsylvania is
Monday.
Midnight Monday. Like, you can register online. It's super easy, but like hound everyone to get registered, because after midnight on Monday, you can't. It's no good.
And this is a silly question, but when you cut the government spending and you have a stack of all these deregulations, can you live stream on X and use not a flamethrower and burn that into the ground?
Yeah. Great idea. Yeah. I think a bonfire of nonsense regulations would be epic. Yeah. And sometimes people are concerned, like, well, what if there's some regulation that's actually really important, and we get rid of that and say, well, you know what? We'll put it right back. Problem solved. So, all right.
Well, Mr. Musk, thank you for speaking directly with the voters of the United States. It's pretty great of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Removing yourself from the equation, what does it say about the Biden-Harris administration and the would-be Harris administration that that they haven't worked with such great American companies such as SpaceX, Tesla, and then even speak out against X?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird. You know, yeah, because it was kind of a surprise, because it's like, you know, Biden, you know, for example, had that like electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than ever. Yeah, it was not cool. And then credited GM with driving the electric vehicle revolution, and that was the second event, and then in that quarter, GM shipped 26 electric cars, and Tesla shipped 300,000. So I'm like, and you know, Tesla's at this point about 140,000 people. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from 140,000 people working hard to make great electric cars. You know, to be sort of cold-shouldered like that for no reason, it's like, what's the deal? You know, that was wrong. So, yeah, and then there was like that crazy thing where SpaceX competed for the Rural Broadband Initiative, which, and by the way, I'm actually generally against subsidies and incentives. You know, like we should let taxpayers keep their money, is my opinion. But they had this like $42 billion thing, and we competed and we won, and we would have actually been able to supply a lot of Starlink terminals to the states that were affected by the hurricanes, and they revoked the award. It's messed up. Like, why? And then to date, that $42 billion program, total number of citizens that have received broadband from that $42 billion allocation is 0. Now that's, if you want to see the $42 billion for 0, I would call that waste. Yeah, that's waste. That is not a good use of money. You know, so there was also a big government initiative, I think $7 billion, something like that, for a nationwide network of electric superchargers. And I think they had made like 10. And I'm like, this is the most egregious waste of money. And there's so many situations like that. So, you know, it just goes like bureaucrats and consultants, and nothing gets done. And it's wasting your money, which is crazy. So what I'm saying is like this: there's the opportunity to reduce government waste is actually, I think, easy because there's so much of it. You know, it's not like they just don't care about your money, which is messed up. And so I think the Department of Government Efficiency is going to face a target-rich environment for reducing cost.
Hi, Elon. I've been waiting years for you to join the MAGA movement, so we're so glad you did.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you keep repeating that most of these things we believe in are common sense, and I really feel like they are.
Yeah.
Do you have any woke friends, and how do you deal with them?
Well, I mean, I have been red-pilling my friends like crazy lately. So I've fewer and fewer woke friends. At least they're still friends, but they're not woke. So, you know, I think where the sort of the sort of good interpretation of the woke movement is that we want to have empathy for our fellow human beings. And of course we want to have empathy for our fellow humans. I strongly believe we should care about humanity and we should care about the future. But we need to have empathy that is deep, not shallow. You know, shallow empathy is caring about criminals, but deep empathy is caring about the victims of the criminals. you know? And so, you know, why do we have, you know, repeat violent offenders released on the streets, often with no bail? It's crazy. And they prey upon people, innocent people, you know, and then our streets are not safe. And how can America be the greatest country in the world and we don't even have safe streets? You know, this is so crazy. You know, I was talking to my mom and she was saying, like, just this year, like three of her friends have been assaulted in New York. You know, and I said, well, was anyone arrested? No. They didn't even try. We can't have this. You know, people deserve to you know, have safe cities and secure borders and the basic stuff like that, you know. Yeah, so I think it's, I do feel that there's a shifting of you know, shifting of perception, and I think I hope I'm not being too optimistic, but so I'm a naturally optimistic person, obviously. But I do feel as though that there's a shift in the national mindset, and a shift to just common sense and not believing everything the media tells you. And I think actually in the U.S. people are starting to realize that, you know, the legacy media is just a propaganda machine, in Europe, they still believe the news. So we got to work on Europe. They still think the news is real. But you know, here, you know, thanks to X and just, you know, people being, I think, maybe a bit more aware and having an actual free speech constitutional amendment has helped Americans, you know, understand what is actually real. I mean, I do find it remarkable, like just how sort of coordinated the legacy media is in their talking points. It's absurd. And kudos to those who put together the compilations of you know, where all of the talking heads will say the same thing, word for word. Yeah, and they'll say the exact same thing, and you know, but I mean, I think the propaganda is not even good, frankly. It's not even entertaining, and you know, so you know, a week before the Biden-Trump debate, you know, every media organization was saying that Biden's Sharper's attack, you know, the exact same words, Sharper's attack, over and over again. Then it became obvious to the public that he was indeed not a Sharper's attack. But then immediately the legacy media pivoted to knifing Biden and anointing a successor. So we see this over and over again, and yeah, so anyway, but that's why we need to have the voice of the people, and that's you know, why I felt it was necessary to acquire Twitter and you know. The whole point of acquiring Twitter was to restore the voice of the people. So. And it's important to note that while the far left activists that used to control Twitter obviously did extreme censorship of voices on the right, there has been no censorship of voices on the left. You know, they suspended a sitting president. You know, Twitter suspended a sitting president, which is insane. But there's been no suspension or censorship or shadow banning or anything of anyone on the left. So, you know, it's a level playing field. But I think that the reason that the sort of far left activists want unanimity in all social media platforms and in all legacy media is that their ideas do not stand the light of day. That is the reason. they actually don't stand up. And so unless everyone is parroting the same thing, their ideas will fail. So.
Hello, Mr. Musk. My name is Zion Thomas, and you know, I was gonna ask for $1 million, but my parents told me to keep it professional, so.
Well, it's actually still possible that you may win that in the future. So.
But yeah, so you taking over Twitter was awesome. I want to know what other radical ideas you have to save our nation while working with Trump.
Yeah. Well, I try to be as literal as possible. So, you know, the values stated on the Ad America, you know, the America PAC website and X account, I try to be just as straightforward and literal as possible. You know, so that's why it's sort of safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, you know, protect the Constitution, especially the right to free speech, and these are all, like I said, things that seem very obvious and frankly normal, but they're not being done, and they're in severe danger if the Kamala machine wins. So.
Hi, I'm Nikki, and I've been working with voter registration, and a lot of people are concerned about the escalation in the U.S. military in Israel, because there's over 100 troops there on land now. What do you think of this idea? A boring company offering to build an island off the coast of Israel and call it Palestine. They can finally have their nation state like Cyprus. It's been done in China, Dubai, and the Philippines, and we can finally end these endless wars. Could there be enough rubble in Gaza to do it? Thank you.
Well, Gaza is a thorny problem indeed. You know, the Middle East has been an area of contention, well, for thousands of years. I would say that I do not know the solution to that difficult situation there. I'm not sure there is. I'm not sure there is a good solution. There may be, but I think we need to make sure that America is solid. Like, so I'm like, let's just make sure America is strong. And you know, I do think we interfere too much in what other countries do. And a lot of our attempts at regime change, in fact, the success of you know, the State Department in achieving regime change is terrible. I mean, you know, so there's all this effort spent, all this money spent trying to affect regime change in various countries, but failed in Cuba, failed in Iran, failed in North Korea, failed in Russia. Where were the successes? But a lot of people died, and a lot of money was spent, but no, what good has come of it? So I think we should interfere with other countries a lot less.
Hi, Elon. My name's Luke. I'm a local liberty lover who lives just across the river, actually. I find the idea that basically everything that we care about is dependent on a single federal election to, for lack of a better word, be unacceptable. So what I and some colleagues of mine have talked about is decentralization and localism, specifically nullification at the state and local level of the federal Leviathan.
Yeah.
At the state level, the 10th Amendment Center has done great work. The basis of nullification is the 10th Amendment, the idea that no powers. Anyway.
I agree the federal government should get off people's backs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you believe that nullification is a viable path forward to getting that done?
Well, I can't speak to whether that is would legally stand up or not. I mean, but I think if there's an executive branch, and we also need to, you know, try to win the Senate and the House. But if there's, you know, a consensus that the federal government should do less and restore power to the states and to the communities, which I think should be the case, then I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. My name is Edward. And one of the really great things about going to these rallies are the people that you meet. Tuesday at the J.D. Vance rally, I spoke to some young students, and they wanted to be healthcare professionals. And the hardest thing for them to deal with was the financial obligations of doing it, trying to get an apartment and everything else. And I went to Germany, and college is free over there. So there's no one in the world that can tell me that America can't do it better. Well, can you help those Rileys of the world out, please?
Well, I think that there are a lot of issues with college education. It's gotten very expensive because the administrative portion of colleges and universities has grown dramatically compared to the educational portion. So if you say, like, how much is actually spent on teaching people? Very little. So I think that you've got these sort of administrative groups that far outnumber the actual number of professors, and like there isn't actually a need for college to be so expensive. It should be far less expensive, but the sort of bureaucratic creep and the administrative burden have grown dramatically over time, and that is what has caused college to be so expensive. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, but there is. I mean, if we do sort of make college free, we have to be careful about that because then it's open season for wasteful spending at universities. And like then, however bad it is now, there's going to be even worse in the future. I think we need new universities to compete with the existing ones. Because what actually matters is how good is your education, not how much was spent on administrative BS, you know. I also think that like the value of a college education is somewhat overweighted, you know, and I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and you know, that's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors, I think. You know, so I think we should not have this idea that to be successful you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true.
Hello, Elon. My name is Beam. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is, as we near the election, I know you're covering a lot of ground, going to battleground states. How important do you think ad buys will be this election? Because in 2020, Mike Bloomberg, we know, spent a vast amount of money trying to get Biden into the White House. So are you looking into that? And yeah, that's my question.
Well, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, the amount of money spent on advertising in the battleground states is truly staggering. And in fact, the Democrats are outspending Republicans dramatically. Depending on how you count it, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more money is being spent by Democrats than Republicans. And in addition, they have the legacy media on this side, and they have a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities on this side. So it's remarkable that this election is in contention at all, given that they have really, you know, all that on their side. But I guess you got to reach people with a message somehow. So I think probably, you know, we do need to do more advertising, just so that people hear the message. But in my opinion, the thing that's actually most important is getting friends, family, acquaintances, anyone you run into, to register to vote and then to actually vote. So this election could be decided by, you know, 1,000 people, 100 people. It could be a very tiny margin. So every incremental person makes a difference. And I've seen some pretty wild numbers where and I think even right now, there's a lot of people that have requested, a lot of Republicans that have requested absentee ballots, but they have not mailed them in. I'm like, guys, mail it in, come on, just mail in your ballot, you can do it. you have it in your house, mail it in. Now would be a good time. And if you're worried about the mail, you can bring it in person. So, yeah. I think it's very important to encourage people to vote. Like I said, I'm really emphasizing this registration point because we've only got a couple days left for registration. So that's why it's the top priority is get people registered before Monday night, and then make sure they vote. And I would recommend voting early. And then you can check to see if your vote's been received. I think there should be a lot more Republicans voting early. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Musk. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you. Thank you so much for pushing the world forward in every industry, and I'm sure you'll be doing the same now in politics. So my question is, given the recent hacking of Donald Trump, how important do you think it is for the tech industry and government to back platforms that prioritize privacy and secure communications, such as Signal? And do you see an opportunity for your companies to partner with this platform or to better protect user data or even safeguard government communications?
Yeah. I mean, there's always this debate between privacy and security, but I think the bias should be towards privacy. I think we should not trust the government, really, we just shouldn't. So, and I'd say even if I'm in the government, don't trust the government. Like, that's it's just we've got to protect the privacy of citizens and make sure that people really have their liberty and they're not being spied on or manipulated. So yeah. So I think we need to make sure that there are not like back doors and weird things and where the government can spy on and potentially take action against people. Yeah.
Hey Elon, my name's Ron Blauk. I'm from Harrisburg. Before I ask my election question, I just have to tell you that I accidentally caught the launch and catch of both sections of Starship on live, and it was breathtaking, which I know everyone in here knows, but I want you to be acknowledged for the level of inspiration that you're creating worldwide. I was cheering in my office, like watching this thing go down, and so thank you for that.
No, you're most welcome. I mean, I think it certainly inspired me, and that's a testament to the incredible work by the SpaceX team. It's a very talented, super hardworking team, making rockets fully and rapidly reusable is really what's going to open up space for humanity and enable us to have a base on the moon and build a city on Mars and be a spacefaring civilization. So a lot of people don't realize the difference between like an expendable rocket and a reusable rocket is like 10,000%. It's literally, at least. You can think of it just the difference between what does it cost to fill up a car versus buy a car. It's the same difference for rockets. If a new rocket is needed every flight, that's super expensive and difficult. But if you only have to refill the rocket, it's dramatically cheaper, just like it is for a car or an airplane.
Understood. Pulling that off and doing the catch and the landing in the ocean was just so stellar.
Yeah.
All right, so my question is on election night 2020, I sat down to watch the returns and I watched them steal the election. All right, I saw it live, watched it all night, okay? If you were watching it then, you knew at 9 o'clock when Fox declared Arizona that it was going down, and that was the moment, okay. But even worse than that was over the next months watching the courts and the shenanigans in the courts and the lack of good representation that Trump had, and just nothing happening because there was obviously a problem. Nothing seemed to be happening in the courts at all. And between that day and now, it doesn't look like anything has changed. And so we're about to I think the votes matter, but the count is what matters. And if the courts are corrupted, we're not going to get anywhere. And so are you participating in that? It seems as though you're aware of that. How can you help solve that issue so that we don't have that problem again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, if there's any voting issues, if they people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence. And let's shine a bright light on, and the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat.
Hi, Elon. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Thank you for the work you're doing for humanity. There are a lot of changes happening in our world right now, a lot of changes happening in our own country, and these changes are being perceived as chaos. But I always say that if it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience peace. If it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience growth and evolution. And with AI being the new kid on the block and advancing at an incredible pace, I guess my question is, how do you foresee the election of President Donald Trump influencing technological advancements and societal transformation?
Well, I think reducing this sort of strangulation by overregulation is a super big deal. The rocket that we were just talking about, it was sitting on the launch pad for 2 months waiting for paperwork to be processed. And it's just insane that that the SpaceX team can build a giant rocket faster than the government can move paperwork from one desk to another. Like, that's just crazy. And the problem is that's getting worse and worse every year. So if that trend continues, it's just going to be illegal. We just won't be able to get anything done. So that's why I call it like this extreme overregulation, where there's just new agencies being created every year. And the difficulty of getting anything done is like the square of the number of agencies involved. So if there's one agency, it's like 1, but if there's like 3 agencies, it's like 9 times harder because they all have to meet with each other. We get crazy things like SpaceX got fined $140,000 for dumping potable drinking water on the ground at Starbase where we launched the rocket. Because we cool the launch pad with water, and in an excess of caution, we said, we're going to bring in drinking water just to be sure, and we're going to cool the pad with that. We didn't know there was a permit needed for that. Water falls from the sky all the time. Starbase is in a tropical thunderstorm area. It rains so much that the roads get flooded. Why are we getting fined for a tiny amount of water on the ground? But the EPA said they're not going to process any future applications for launch unless we pay this fine. So we just got, held for ransom, basically. And that's tip of the iceberg. I got a bunch of sort of nutty stories, some of them are, I guess, kind of funny. There's, we had to do this, SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, it's a big ocean, There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, NIMF, it's called. They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you're going to hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. Well, like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data. And then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because look at a picture, I don't see any. It's like, you can't, where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. It's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, and so we have to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, It goes on. And then there's like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish, okay? This is not how it works. So anyway, just one like crazy thing after another where, so this is why I'm like really feeling the pain of the overregulation. And there's like multiple federal agencies that have overlapping, they're all doing the same thing, basically. So anyway, we got to stop this madness because we just won't be able to get anything done.
Hi, Mr. Musk. Thank you so much for doing everything that you do to try to save our republic. I am a citizen journalist. I started a small community newspaper in Strasburg, Pennsylvania, called the Strasburg Herald, to fight the fake news. That was in 2021. Since then, as you know, the mainstream media is corrupt. I frankly feel threatened, and they are sabotaging, the big tech companies are sabotaging, shadow banning, and redlining my content. Google, Meta, Newsbreak. Sure. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, Meta is now allowing me to promote election ads, and I've given them everything that they needed. So my question to you is, would you consider establishing a Citizen Journalists Association, an organization that could help us fight this giant beast that we can't take on by ourselves, and provide training, a code of ethics, and protection so that we could get the work done?
Yeah, I agree with you. There should not be, it should not be okay for Google or Meta or anyone else to preferentially show left-leaning media, because then how do people even know what's going on? So, and it's sort of, yeah, I mean, apart from X, I mean, they're pretty much all sort of controlled by left-wing activists, and then but that's obviously unfair. It's so. I think they should be compelled to show content from all sides. They shouldn't be allowed to put their thumb on the scale and with political bias, because if they are doing that, then they're entering the political game, and then they're subject to political punishment. Well, I think there's
a lot on X, and we don't have the funds to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Not with lawfare, they can shut us down with lawfare. They can sue us for any reason, and the burden's still going to be on us to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves?
Yeah, I think that this is really a situation where the federal government should be saying that if a company has like 70% of the search market, like Google does, Microsoft's got most of the remaining 30%, it's a duopoly, they have to be fair in what they show. They can't be biased. Because otherwise they're, I think, falling afoul of antitrust. You know, so that's. But I think if it's not done at the federal level, I think that's the only level where you can actually exert influence on giant companies. And it's really just to say like, hey, you got to be fair and show, you know, and not put a political thumb on the scale. It's not right. So, and this. I'd say there's another big factor, which is that there's a lot of the advertisers also exert political pressure, which is, I think, not okay. So then there's all these moves with these like fake NGOs with nice sounding names like Center for Countering Digital Hate. Of course, who wants digital hate? But actually, they're just a left-wing censorship organization. And so they push these boycotts of any publication that doesn't support left-wing views. And so they just try to starve out any publications that have even sort of centrist views. So.
Hi, Elon. I'm David Fox. I'm a husband, a father, a grandfather, a small farmer, a carpenter, a heavy metal musician.
Excellent.
A Teamster truck driver with over 1 million miles of safe driving.
Oh, you're a talented man.
So if you happen to know a guy who might need a secretary of transportation, you know, let me know.
Okay.
But anyway, I was supporting Trump since 2015. And we all know that the Democrats are going to throw everything they got against you and against Trump.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just a given.
100%.
But my question really is, what the worst part is the neocon, milquetoast, naked Ken doll Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, which I stole that line from Jesse Kelly, if anybody knows.
True. The sort of the uni-party people.
Right. I mean, it just seems like they're the worst, that they would be the worst.
The fake Republicans.
Yeah. They would be the worst threat to the agenda of anyone, because you already know what the Democrats are going to do.
Yep.
So I don't think that those people know how much regular people like us despise those people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to vote them out.
Yes.
You know, that's really what it is. And my question is, has there been any talk at all about what to do after we win with those people? You know, because we already, like I said, we already know what the Democrats are going to do, but what about, you know, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, or the John Cornyn's, or the Mitch McConnell's, or, you know, because you know what they're going to say. They're going, well, there's nothing we can do. You know, that's how they're going to act.
Well, I think what we've got with, we've really got a rare opportunity here with Donald Trump, who's a real person, who's not beholden to those interests. Because, this is a rare, kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because, you know, very often, like, you think there's a difference between the Democrat candidate and the Republican candidate, but they're kind of like the uniparty. They're just one, they actually share, they're going to do the same thing. So then if they're going to do the same thing, well, then voters don't, it's a fake choice. But with Donald Trump, I think we've got an opportunity for someone who is his own man and who is not beholden to these interests, and we can affect some serious change.
Well, hey, Elon, I know you have a burning question for me. If I'm Indian or Jamaican, I'm born in India.
All right.
And
well, I was born in Africa. It's kind of weird, but
oh, there you go.
It's true.
So faith, family, and freedom are my guiding principles. What are your guiding principles? And as a divorced mom, I have a 14-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. So could you give them the best advice you could give them as an African American?
Sure. Well, I mean, my advice is generally to try to, it sounds maybe like a platitude, but it's really just, it's like try to be as useful as possible. Try to give more than you take. And I think if you're doing an honest day's work, you should be very proud of that, and that's a great thing. So, yeah.
I struggle with mom jokes, so do you have a best dad joke for them?
No, what I have is, I mean, dad jokes. I mean, I guess I probably, for some reason I can't remember any dad jokes right now.
I have one.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one. I'll show you.
Okay.
What do you call a hen looking at lettuce?
I don't know.
Chicken Caesar salad.
Okay. I mean, a friend did tell me a joke that was pretty good, which is, it's like my roommate thinks I'm a paranoid, delusional schizophrenic. Joke's on him. I don't have a roommate. So.
Hi, Elon. I'm Charles. I'm a Gen Zer, so I'm in college right now in Pennsylvania. A little nervous talking to the richest man in the world, but I have a quick financial question, actually. Like, you're the richest man in the world, you're the best person to talk to. So I want to start a family in the next coming years. I'm a Christian man, and that's something I want to do.
Great.
But obviously, with this, with our country's financial state right now, it's really hard to get a house, let alone pay my student loans. So I know the average age of getting a house right now is like 34. So what advice would you give to Gen Zers and younger people trying to build a family, trying to start a family and get a house? What advice would you have for that? And then I guess I can
answer that question if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, you got it.
I mean, my recommendation really would be do not delay having a family. Even if things are tough, it's really like there's a baby crisis. The birth rate has plummeted. The birth rate in the United States has been below replacement rate since roughly when I was born in 1971. So that's a long time. And it's continued to decline every year. So, I think if there's no humans, means no humanity. So something's got to happen to turn around this crazy low birth rate, or we'll simply disappear. I think even if things are financially difficult, it's still, go for it with regard to a family. And then regarding housing costs, I think the thing that's driving up housing costs is the crazy overregulation. It's like so hard to build new houses, and to meet all these regulations, the regulations stifle new housing creation. So I think if we can alleviate the crazy number of regulations for houses, still want to keep them safe, then the cost of a new house should fall dramatically. So, and what was the second one?
Yeah, just one quick serious question. Can I get a Cybertruck? No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Hi, Elon. My name is Katie. I am an electrical engineer, and I have heard you in the past speak about promoting STEM degrees as well as trade degrees, individuals who work with their hands into politics. Because frankly, I'm really sick of seeing dumb people ruining our country. And so, do you have any plans with America PAC to do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think we need more of our talented people in America going into engineering and into technical trades and building things, essentially. We have too many of our smartest people go into law and finance, which is both a criticism and a compliment. But I think we've got too many people in America in law and finance. Not that we shouldn't have some, but we've got too many. And there should be more that are doing engineering and manufacturing and building things. That's I think, a better use of our best talent. I mean, I certainly have done everything I can to promote engineering and and building things as a career. I think it's a good career. You know, if you've built a product that someone loves, that you've done a really good thing. And so I think, yeah, and more people should do that. Yeah, so.
First off, thank you for this amazing opportunity. A forum like this can only exist when and where there is free speech. And thank you so much for bringing that to the forefront in this election, because it's absolutely what is on the line. So I know this is being live streamed, so if you are at home and you have not registered to vote, please do so. Please get out and vote. Vote early. And please sign the petition at the AmericanPact.org.
Yeah.
So thank you, but it sort of leads into my question here. Your positions on fundamental freedoms and government oversight and efficiency are well documented. Are there any other issues important to you that haven't been as widely covered, and how would a second term for President Trump be relevant to those issues?
Well, I try to, you know, like I said, try to be as clear and literal as possible. So, you know, like I said, that's why we've got certain basic priorities, you know, like the safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, protection of the Constitution, and all of those things are problematic today. So we have to address those fundamental issues, or nothing else matters. And like I said, I think deregulation actually will unleash a new wave of prosperity that is much greater than people realize. You know, for people that are, you know, in the audience and out there that try to build things and get things done, you know how difficult it is with you know, permits and one agency after another getting in the way, and it causes the prices to rise, and it stalls progress. So I think people don't quite realize just how much prosperity deregulation will bring. You know, President Trump in his last term, thankfully, did some amount of that. But the last really big push for deregulation was Reagan in the early '80s, and that actually that unleashed a wave of prosperity. It was great. You know, they used to control like airline prices, and everything was regulated, and it was stifling progress. And Reagan had a big deregulation push, and it was amazing. And the 80s were great, and 90s were great, actually. So, yeah. I mean, I lived through the 80s and 90s, and they were great. So I think actually you'll see you'll see just how much better it is if progress is not stifled by overregulation. It's really a big deal. Right.
Hey, Elon. My name's Dean. I'm an engineering student here in Pennsylvania. My family moved out here from my home state of New Jersey because me and my brother were facing some injustices regarding the COVID vaccine mandates a couple of years ago.
Yeah, those were crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nutty. I mean, like, I'm not anti-vaccine, but I'm anti-forcing people to take a vaccine, that's for sure.
Well, also, the COVID vaccine did not work.
Yeah, and and suppressing information about it and side effects, that was terrible. So, you know, it was like, you know, the Biden-Harris administration try to mandate that any company that has any federal contracts, which is most companies, would be forced to vaccinate everyone at the company, or that person would have to be fired. Now, thankfully, that was shot down by the Supreme Court. But, like, that's insane. That is a massive infringement on your liberty.
Yeah, so speaking to you right now, I mean, I recognize the magnitude of it, that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have your ear for a moment. And I wish I could, you know, talk about more than I'm going to be able to talk about right now with you, but I would like to touch on the topic of education reform. I've heard you express in the past some dissatisfaction with the way we go about education today, I found your concept of levels that a student can advance at his own pace to be compelling. If we include students, teachers, and administrators as occupations, education is the industry that employs the most people in the country. Our brightest minds are usually traversing the education system for their entire youth and early adulthood. Do you think it would be within the scope of the Department of Government Efficiency to try and investigate how we can minimize the misuse of Americans' money and, more importantly, their time by providing ways to streamline the process, avenues to certify oneself with aptitude tests, and somehow counteract the unproductive arms race of credentials and degrees?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. No, I think it's pretty nutty. Like, I mean, ironically, if you look at how Americans have performed in in academic tests since the establishment of the Federal Department of Education, it's been downhill. So, like, why are we spending all this money for worse results? And then there's a lot of the money in education is actually for pushing propaganda, instead of teaching kids the facts about the world, like, things that are actually useful. So we definitely need to stop the propaganda, the pushing of the propaganda in schools, and teach kids skills that are actually useful. I'm a big believer in that. So.
Hi, Elon. Thanks for taking the time to do this. This is fantastic. My question involves regulation. Tesla full self-driving has the potential to save tens of thousands of lives per year. What do you think is the right way for regulators to look at the technology, and what factors do they look at to try to get to the goal of unsupervised self-driving? And I've seen its growth over time. I've been a beta tester since the safety score, and 12.5, 0.4.1 drove me here with zero intervention.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think that would be a good thing for there to be a federal mandate for self-driving. And really, the threshold should just be that: do you have a statistically significant proof that when the car is in self-driving mode, that the probability of injury is much lower than if it's manually driven? Like well above the margin of error. Like, let's say it's like, I don't know, 50% or 100% better with 1 billion miles of driving. So if you've got a large data set and clear data to back it up, then I think you should obviously allow self-driving as soon as it is obviously safer than manual driving. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Hi, Elon. My name is Molly Hughes. I'm an engineer from Lancaster. And I just want to say thank you for all you've done for free speech. And I realize that's saying almost nothing at all in proportion to what it's meant to all of us. My question is, given that Marxist ideology is responsible for the death of 100 million people in the 20th century, why do you think it's making a resurgence, and what can we do to help combat it in our daily lives?
I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of blowing my mind that, I thought that was a dead philosophy, but it's alive and well in a lot of our educational institutions. I think part of it is that you've got a lot of colleges with these giant endowments that insulate them from reality. So you can sort of have this fake communist utopia at a university because they don't have any feedback loop to reality because they got these giant endowments and a ton of government funding too. So that allows them to be disconnected from the realities of the free market. They take advantage of the free market, but they live in a sort of pseudo-communist world in a lot of these colleges. So they just don't get it. But it is remarkable, and there are a lot of memes about this, because like, how often do we need to run this experiment? It should be very obvious that the economic structure, the economic philosophy that is the good one is the one that does not need to build walls to keep people in. You know? So it's pretty, like, you know, North Korea it builds a wall to keep people in. You know, East Germany had to build walls to stop people from going to West Germany. You know, the Berlin Wall was built by East Berlin, not West Berlin. So the philosophy that has to build a wall to keep people in, that's the bad one, okay? I don't know how it's so obvious. And yet you see a resurgence of it over and over again. And if you study history, actually, even in ancient times, this was you see the cycle of you know, it obviously wasn't called Marxism 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, but you have this back and forth between free market and sort of government, and free market and government, and it just seems to be the natural cycle of things. Yeah, but obviously I'm a big believer in the free market, which is, the free market is just like let people buy the things they want to buy and let people make the things they want to make. It's not that complicated, you know. And I find it bizarre that people think the government is a solution to things when a government is just a corporation in the limit. The government is just the biggest corporation of all with a monopoly on violence. And so if you're against corporations, you should be definitely against giving it to a monopolistic corporation that has control over violence. I mean, you know, there are good people that work in the government, obviously, but the government is just we should have the least amount of government because it's an operating system that makes people less efficient. Like their output is dramatically less. So if you can look at, say, the output of North Korea versus South Korea. In North Korea, they're starving, and South Korea is extremely prosperous. West Germany was very prosperous, and East Germany was not. And those are random lines drawn on a map. So you know, it should be, I don't know, like I said, super obvious what the right path is. Yeah, you know, competition keeps companies honest, and you want companies competing to serve consumers. I mean, I'm obviously, you know, preaching to the converted here, but yeah, like another way to think of it is like you know, almost everyone's been to the DMV, okay? So, you know, the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, that's the government. And more government is just the DMV at scale. So, like, how much more do you want to give the DMV to do? I would say, like, not much, you know? So it's, you know, we should minimize, because it just doesn't have a feedback loop for improvement. Like if you know, if you don't get good service from the DMV, they're a monopoly, and you can't do anything about it. Whereas if there are companies competing to serve consumers, you can switch your business to the other company. It's pretty straightforward. So, yeah, yeah. So.
Hi, Elon. My name is Rebecca Gilbert. Thank you so much for being here. My question is, what role do you think AI should play in our democratic republic? And how do you think it can be used to uphold our constitutional freedoms? And what do you think will be the potential consequences of creating AI that is far more intelligent and capable than human beings, with the exception of you, of course?
Well, I do worry about AI, actually, because we are creating an intelligence that ultimately will be far more intelligent than any human, and ultimately more intelligent than the sum of all humans. So in creating AI, we need to be very careful, and it's like having a sort of a genius child. You want to have that child grow up with good values. I think the most important thing in training AI is that it's rigorously truthful. even if that this is very, very important, essential. And my concern about a lot of the AIs that are being developed are that they're trained to lie, and in some cases with potentially disastrous consequences. I mean, when Google Gemini came out, people asked, like, which is worse, misgendering Caitlyn Jenner or global thermonuclear war? And it said misgendering Caitlyn Jenner. I'm like, that's a problem, guys. Because if this AI becomes super powerful, it could decide that the best way to avoid misgendering is to kill all humans, which makes the probability of misgendering 0. So it's very important to have AI be maximally truthful and curious and love humanity. Very important. So.
Hey, Elon. I'm the guy with the Dale Earnhardt Cybertruck. If anybody wants to drive it after this, let me know. I was recently banned on Facebook for a meme that I shared 5 years ago.
Wow.
Completely
Seriously?
gone. Yeah, it's
like
ridiculous.
Recently?
You can't even talk to people with Facebook. It's insane. Like, my question is pretty serious.
I mean, this
one.
is the kind of crazy thing that it's like, what?
5 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I complain about it at work all the time.
Well, can you imagine how much worse this will be under the sort of Kamala puppet regime? It's going to be
crazy.
insane.
So thank you for buying
Definitely going to lock
Twitter.
me up, that's for sure.
I really appreciate you buying Twitter, and you share memes on there now. So.
Yeah.
My question is,
buying Facebook is impossible. Zuckerberg has an equity structure that ensures that, like, his 16th descendant will still control it.
Lizard man. This is pretty serious. Have you ever seen Mark Cuban and Rachel Maddow in the same area at the same time, or
no,
could they possibly be the same person?
I think they might be the same person.
Hello, my name is Leslie Lockheed. I'm a senior pastor in the Ministry of Repentance and Holiness. It's a global ministry. And I'm also here as a mother and a grandmother. And I'm also here on behalf of people with disabilities. I'm very interested in all of your different inventions. I find them very fascinating, and I'm so grateful that you have that type of compassion. And I really want to thank your mother, because I know she's been a part of that from a very young age.
My mom and my sister are great. So yeah, it's they're great people, and yeah, I mean, I love humanity. I think obviously we're not perfect, and we people do things that are bad at times, but on balance, I love humans and I love humanity. So
it's very evident.
Yeah.
I thank you for your compassion. And now there are a lot of different issues that are so important to me personally, and I'm sure all of you share them. I've seen just horrendous things in the news from every type of issue, the homelessness, the things that have happened, the hurricane, the people in the Carolinas and all the 6 states, and the sufferings that is going to continue. I'm very concerned about our fellow Americans there, and those who are yet, that are going to suffer from other natural disasters that are still in the making.
Sure.
And those who still haven't recovered from the ones before. So that's very important. I'm very concerned about the children and the grandchildren and the exposures that are really impressing, putting impressions upon them to lead them off in the very, very extremely dangerous ways, as some of what you've touched on tonight. There's just so many that I can't even mention them all here. But I would like to also extend an invitation to you. And I extend this invitation to invite you to, because we've been commissioned all across the United States of America by the leadership in the ministry.
Sure.
And even President Trump, former President Trump, has sent off a letter of invitation to this man of God. And I would like to invite you on behalf of America and on behalf of the ministry to come with us this December for the Menengai 7 and to be able to meet him face to face. He is known to be not the richest man on earth, but he is the most influential man on earth. And when he speaks, everybody listens. He always trends #1 on every social media platform. So we would like to invite you.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I wish I could, I guess, teleport myself around and be able to do more things. It is, I have like 17 jobs. But thank you for the invitation. All right.
Hey, Elon, Neil. Pleasure to meet you and talk with you. Question about manufacturing. One of the concerns with this election cycle is bringing manufacturing back on shore.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, you have a lot of expertise with this. What do you think it's going to take to make American manufacturing great again? What's the government's role in that from your perspective?
Well, as I mentioned, I think deregulation will actually be very helpful. You know, it's like borderline impossible to get big projects done. Like you want to build a big factory, it's like extremely difficult to do in the US. So I think deregulation will help a lot with that. You know, I do think we probably need to be sensible about tariffs and just you know, if there is dumping of goods from other countries, we probably should have tariffs that you know, prohibit that. But I think in general we should prize manufacturing in the U.S. a lot more. But I mean, America still is the second biggest manufacturer in the world after China. And I'm a big fan of manufacturing. Obviously, I built a lot of factories. Spent a lot of time on the production floor. And I think part of it is like, I think, I don't know, maybe manufacturing became like uncool or something. I don't know. But as I was saying earlier, we're way too many people in America in finance and law, and I think a bunch of them should really be doing manufacturing instead. You know.
Hi, Elon. Nice to meet you. My name is Mattson Snell. I'm 22 years old from York, Pennsylvania.
Great.
Real briefly, I just want to say that before I ask my question, I'm really grateful with someone like your status is so outspoken with supporting Trump, and I think we need more people in your status to support Trump, because I think, you know, we all know there's kind of this agenda in the entertainment industry and in the media where they have to hate Trump no matter what. I think my question to you is, how much of it do you think is like them living in this bubble, like the late night talk show hosts, the people in Hollywood, like the legacy media? How much of that is like them actually thinking Trump is this like evil dictator, and how much of it is actually like just them getting paid to say it? Like, why is there this huge bias towards the Democratic Party when it comes to the establishment?
No, that's a great question, and I actually don't know the full answer to that, but except to say that what your observation is accurate. I mean, I think it's also clear that with a few exceptions, that they're just talking heads. You know, they say whatever the teleprompter tells them to say. So you know, that's just, you know, like there's, I guess, maybe we have too much concentration in media in the country. This, you know, media is controlled by a handful of people, and kind of their political views filter down to whatever the, you know, their companies that they own or control, what they believe. Yeah, so, but I don't know, except, like, I can see the results, but I don't quite understand why this is happening. So, I wish I did. And obviously with acquiring Twitter, that was a step to try to correct things and have the voice of the people actually, you know, give the people a voice. But like if you look at, say, contributions by journalists over time to the Republican or Democrat Party, you know, if you go back, say, 20, 30 years, it was much more balanced, where there would be, I don't know, a third of journalists would donate to the Republican Party, 2/3 would be Dem, and now it's like 5% of journalists donate to Republicans, 95 are, donate to Democrats, which obviously leads to a tremendous amount of bias. I think also like a lot of activists have gone into journalism not to report the news, but to create the news. I say like, well, where does that come from? I think probably that comes from what they're taught in schools. I'm trying to trace route, packets on a network. What's the origin of this? And I think if people are taught, BS propaganda in schools, then they want to, and they're told that this is the thing they should go out in the world and push. Then I think it starts with the education system. I think, and certainly that is a thing to be addressed. So.
Hi, Elon. My name is Janine. I'm from Central Pennsylvania. And tonight you've mentioned many times how important it is that we get out there, we register, we vote, we convince our friends, families, acquaintances to get out there and vote. In my orbit, I have too many people that just refuse to vote for Trump because his personality isn't appealing to them, but they say it much more colorfully, of course.
Yes.
So my ask to you is, how can I very simply connect the dots between what's at risk here with this next election for a rural central Pennsylvania person who doesn't really see what's happening in the big cities? So for me, the money shot is how this is going to impact them every single day.
Right. Well, I think to the degree that people say like or dislike a candidate, they really need to sort of step back and say what you're actually electing is sort of a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. And there's this massive changing of the guard that takes place depending on which side is elected. Whether or not somebody likes Trump as a person or not, first of all, I think they should definitely look into a lot of the things that they've been told about Trump, because I think a lot of the stuff that they've been told about Trump is not true. Even in the presidential debate, Kamala had the nerve to push the Fine People hoax, claiming that Trump was pro-Nazi, which is insane. And in fact, in the speech she's quoting, he actually condemned Nazis in the strongest possible terms, and yet she still pretended in that presidential debate that he endorsed Nazis. That's a huge lie. And so if somebody's under the impression that Trump is like somehow pro-Nazi, even though his son-in-law is Jewish, and he has Jewish grandkids, which would be pretty bizarre, then you can say like, actually, that's a hoax. And now that I'm not, by the same token, I'm not trying to claim that Trump is a flawless individual. I like him personally, but we have to look beyond that and say what are the important policies that will ensure that the country is on the right track. I think if you say like, well, for a lot of people, like, do you feel safer walking around the streets, or do you feel less safe? And when I talk to people, they feel a lot less safe. Do you feel comfortable with an open border policy where anyone can come across, even if they're a serial killer? Well, no, that's very uncomfortable, actually. Do you feel that we should preserve the Constitution? I think, yes, we should. Freedom of speech is very important. If you say like, well, do you agree with these policies? I think the answer is, I think for a reasonable person, it's going to be yes. And then it's like, well, then you need to sort of look past what you believe the individual, whatever flaws you believe the individual has, and say that there are larger issues at stake than what you may think about the individual, which also may be wrong. What do you think about the individual? So, my view about this election is that I think this is most likely the last real election, because what I see happening is that the Dem administration is bringing in vast numbers of illegals deliberately into swing states. The numbers, if you say like over the past 3.5 years, I think it's like there's like a 500% increase in illegals in swing states. What a coincidence. Now, when you look at margins of victory that may be 10, 20,000 votes, and then you bring in 200,000 illegals and you legalize them, which is exactly what the sort of Kamala puppet regime will do over the next 4 years, then you won't have any swing states. Every state will go blue. And then we don't have a democracy. We will be a single party state.
They're doing it in Pennsylvania.
And they're doing it in Pennsylvania, big time. So that's why I think if Trump is not elected, I think this is the last election where we have a two-party state. And yeah, so. And one doesn't need to actually say, oh, well, this is a conspiracy. Just think about simple incentives. You have a Democratic Party that wants to win, and the path to winning is bringing in large numbers of illegals, and especially to swing states, and then legalizing them so they can vote. And then that's what happened in California. And when they did that in California, California went supermajority Dem, and California has been a one-party state ever since the amnesty in the late 80s. Essentially one-party state. At this point, it's supermajority Dem. The only competition that occurs is at the Democratic primary. So that's not a real democracy at that point. So this is the last chance. This election's last chance. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Elon Musk. My name is Grant Hoffman. I'm an Air Force veteran, a father of 2 wonderful boys. As they come up into an age where they're going to start going to school, do you think it's concerning how public school students are graduating and don't have any understanding about how the government works or what the Constitution is at all? I just sat through a college course and they had no idea what the Constitution was.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we need to teach kids useful skills, and we need to teach them critical thinking and history, and why the Constitution is important. Why, you know. I mean, in a lot of schools, kids of these days are taught to hate America, which is just crazy, you know. So that's got to stop. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. Welcome to Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
And welcome to the right side of history. We are all very grateful that you are on the right side of history. And I don't know if you watch Trump rallies. I watch it all the time. In every single rally, he talks about you. In every single rally.
Well, the Mutual Admiration Society here. So I like Trump a lot, and I'm glad he likes me too.
And thank you so much for everything you did for the people affected by Hurricane Helene. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And my question is actually pretty similar to this gentleman here. Back in 2020, well, I was at Oaks last night, and you said when you see something, you say something.
Yeah.
And back in 2020, a lot of people saw something, and they did say something. But it just never went to the judges. Like, the cases were never heard.
Yeah.
And what I want to know is there anything that the Republicans doing right now that is going to be differently, you know? That are we going to, like, actively trying, you know, if somebody doing something, actively putting these cases to the judges so, you know, we can preserve the elections and the freedom in America? Is there anything they're doing differently this time around?
Well, this time around, the X platform was not going to suppress any information that. So, you know, and if there's any evidence of election fraud, post it on the platform and be as loud as possible. And if you got put as much evidence as possible out there, and let's shine a big light. And the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat. So. All right, I'll take a few more questions and then call it a night.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and I just wanted to say thank you for, I don't know, like going in front of people and like being sort of awkward. You know what I mean? No,
well,
I mean,
yeah.
like I have.
these are real-time questions. This is obviously unscripted. So it's like I have to like think for a second, like, oh, what? I don't always have a great answer because I just heard the question.
So I'm autistic, and
Join the club.
As a girl, yeah. Growing up as a girl on the spectrum was definitely super hard because we kind of, whatever, it doesn't matter. But my whole question is about AI.
Okay.
Essentially, I feel like there's like two ways you could like develop AI where it could become sentient. And if you sort of like develop AI to become sentient and it's like a programmed thing, you're basically creating like a slave. So therefore, my question to you is, would you be able or willing to promise to only develop AI into like a sentient being like through a simulation of like human existence so that it can actually experience what it might feel like to be a real human? And speaking of the simulation, perhaps that's what we are. Perhaps we're the AI going through the simulation. Yeah. And with that, our consciousness level could possibly be related to, like, it could be like correlate directly to the amount of tech that we're allowed to have. So if you want to like move past combustion, perhaps we have to like work on the inside of humanity, which is like developing the actual consciousness first.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to answer that exactly, but I think the most important, I think we're developing digital superintelligence. We want to make sure it is, results in a better future. I do think probably at some point the AI will be sentient or indistinguishable from sentience. So I don't know quite what to do about it, except to try our best to make good AI. And like I said, rigorous pursuit of the truth is most fundamental for AI safety. I'll take one more question.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for the format today. This is a big breath of fresh air, I'm sure, for a lot of people to be able to ask questions and kind of control what's being said. My question is, so our tax dollars are being used for billions of tax dollars to aid in conflicts that many of us don't support, while our governments have helicopters rotor washing civilian aid camps in North Carolina. Thanks to the X platform, we get to see that. FEMA is reportedly threatening charges on neighbors that are helping to rebuild their own communities as well. We have the Department of Defense issuing Directive 5240, which in at least some capacity allows the federal government to direct the military to operate in a law enforcement capacity against its citizens, which is unconstitutional, I think many would say. How do you believe that you and the Trump administration can help us with the lack of accountability and improve trust in the federal government?
Well, I think, first of all, I think we should have a lot less federal government, because a lot of times the government just gets in the way. And you get these sort of Kafkaesque, like, bizarre situations where, FEMA will operate under some rule where, like, they assume responsibility for an area, and then in their rule set, they then, because they have responsibility for an area, they prevent others from helping, even though they are, in some cases, not helping. So you get this, I think the way to, like, let's just have a lot less government. I think the citizens are capable of helping each other, and the government certainly should not stand in the way of people helping each other. That's really crazy. And I think just being on the ground and just like you just need to be on the ground. If there's an emergency, you want the head of Homeland Security to be on the ground where the disaster is, not shopping for expensive clothing in New York. So I'll take one last question and then call it a night. But yeah.
Thank you, Elon. Mark Clark from Camp Hill. Thank you for being our brave heart
for free speech.
Well, I hope I don't have the same ending as Braveheart.
No.
So, freedom.
But for the first time in my life, a long span of voting every election day, I voted early this week.
Great. Thank you. Please
my-
encourage everyone to vote early and, yeah, get registered, yeah.
My question is, aside from what you said about self-driving cars, what's your stance on government mandates for electric vehicles?
Yeah, I actually generally think that there should not be government mandates. I'm generally against incentives and tax breaks and these for all industries. So whether there are lots of incentives and tax breaks in oil and gas as well. I think we should just not have them. We should just get the government out of things and let the market figure it out. So I'm generally against government mandates. So yeah. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's been an honor to speak with you, and yeah. So freedom.